Boss fights are a pretty iconic staple in most video games. They can be fun to fight, satisfying to defeat, and rewarding as well. They're also pretty fun to make, which is what this devlog will be all about. So the first thing I want to talk about is how I want the bosses to be designed. I want them to be more challenging than the standard enemies you fight through the game, but not too challenging that it can become frustrating. Because I think I'd rather make games that are more inclusive than exclusive. Each boss should be unique from the standard enemies and also from one another. Not just in how they look or sound, but how they function as well as what attacks they have and how do you attack back. When making something like a boss for a game, it's up to you to decide whether you want to design how it looks first or design the mechanics first. When I'm designing bosses, I sort of alternate between the two, but for the boss that I'm going to be talking about in this video, I had an idea of what it would actually look like first. If you watched my last devlog, near the end of the video I showed off a boss from Crash Bash, which was like this bear in a submarine thing, and I thought it'd be cool to make all the bosses different types of vehicles like boats or tanks that are also robots. But for some reason I thought it was a battleship, which is why the boss is like a robot battleship, but there is a submarine here as well. After having some idea of what it would look like, the next step was to think about how it actually functioned. For its attacks, I decided to keep them simple and easy to read rather than be super unpredictable. It will have different attacks that it will cycle through in a sequence, so the player is able to learn the pattern of attacks and get better against the boss. After you survive a wave of attacks, you get a small window to strike back, and then this will repeat 2 to 3 more times. Similar to how bosses work in games like Super Mario. So the first attack it could do are these homing missiles that lock onto the player, but you can survive them by dodging them, which is fun, but it can also be tough considering the clunky and limited movement in this game. For the main cannon attack, it just spawns 3 actors that move fast. These are predictable and easier to dodge, but also do a lot of damage if you do get hit by one. Looking at references of real life battleships, they have these huge explosions that are fired out of the cannons whenever they shoot at something, so I tried recreating this effect for the cannon attacks, using particle effects from the Unreal Engine marketplace. The final attack are these mortar strikes that will paint a target wherever the player is stood, and then you have a few seconds to move before you get hit by one. And now that all these attacks are set up, all I have to do is make a sequence for them for how they'll be fired off. So that's how the boss attacks you, but how are you going to attack back? First I was thinking some sort of turret that you could jump in to shoot at it and then it goes on to cooldown, but I thought that felt weird jumping onto a turret since you are a robot that has weapons for arms. Then I decided in the boss fight, after surviving a wave of attacks, a window will open up to attack the boss, where the submarine will pop its creepy head up, and if you hit it, it will fire a missile at the boat for you, but if you don't hit it in time, you'll go back down and you'll have to survive that same wave again. Then I modelled the iceberg and polished the level up a bit, and the first boss fight is finished. This might not be the first boss you actually fight when the game is actually finished though. I was going to talk about the sound design for this boss as well, but I decided I'll do a separate devlog in the future talking about sound design. I've started working on some of the other bosses too, which still need a lot more work, but I don't want to show them all off so the whole game isn't just spoiled in these devlogs. And that's everything for this devlog, so make sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you when the next devlog is ready.